Shalom Chavrim, I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. Groundbreaking event today when President Trump recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Now, I know there's a lot of different opinions about this, friends. Bear with me as I go into this. I do agree that Israel has Jerusalem has been the capital of Israel for the past 3,000 years, although we, by our own sins, ended up being exiled for 2,000 years. So for 2,000 years, Jerusalem was not our capital. So I know that may not sound very great. It's supposed to be our capital, but our own sins drove us out of our own homeland that God had given us for 3,000 years ago. But the thing is He also promised that we would return. And yes, indeed, we have. Now, there's some very interesting biblical prophecy playing out right now as this whole scenario plays out. And so as I speak to you about this interesting news today, and by the way, after we get out through the prophetic side of this, we're going to go into some other news as well. Good friend of mine, John, sent to me there in an email, really laid out some wonderful news information throughout the Middle East that I want to share with you, even the Far East, especially at a time where it's very tough for me and my wife right now, with us being back home here in Europe, and of course, a lot of other issues there, but won't go into that right now. This is very critical what we're getting into right now. But I wanted to share this here with you because this is truly breaking news, what President Trump has done. Now, he has recognized Jerusalem as the capital for Israel. And no mention that I can see in the report here of the Palestinians. It says here, President Trump's decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital aligns U.S. presence with the reality that Jerusalem is home to Israel's legislature, Supreme Court, President's office, and Prime Minister's office. We have consulted with many friends, partners, and allies in advance of the President making this decision. We firmly believe there is an opportunity for a lasting peace, as the President said in the remarks today. Peace is never beyond the grasp of those willing to reach it. Now, this lets me know, though, what President Trump has done has actually far more consequences probably than what we realize. There's some hidden agenda in behind all of this. So although, yes, Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, I would agree with that. We have to remember the Palestinian people do live in this land. They also are part of the West Bank. And of course, this is something that, as we know from my wife's interview with Simon Tov, that this land has been divided. It's already been divided. There's already been a two-state deal. But it's not for the Palestinians. And this is what my Palestinian friends, you have no idea you're being duped and you've been thrown under the bus to believe a lie, thinking that they're giving you a state. This all goes back to when the 1946 UN Resolution 181, where they declared the dividing of the land. There would be a West Bank. Jerusalem would become an international city, also governed by the United Nations, and as well, Israel would be separate from this West Bank area there. I believe from the very beginning, because Pope Pius XII was very much involved in this, that they were setting up a buffer zone with the Palestinian people, using them for their own sake to give the Pope of Rome a buffer zone. And the Pope of Rome is none other than Esau's descendants. So many people talk about, well, it's all the white people are Esau's descendants. It doesn't even make sense. Come on, guys. Let's use a little common sense here. Biblical prophecy has been fulfilling now for over 70 years, back even further back, because Israel did not become a nation in 1948. She became a nation when the Ottoman Empire permitted the Jews to go and purchase land back in 1858. That's when Israel truly began to become a nation again. The same way that Abraham came in and refused to be given the land, but he purchased the land. He said, far be it that it be said that Abraham was given this land. That's the way we have to do it. I'm excited tonight over this news. All right, so let me kind of share some things here with you what's going on in the news. This here is on Twitter here. Jerusalem, capital of Palestine. The Arabic that you're seeing here on your screen is also a big movement going on right now. This is Shihab Agency. They're putting out that Jerusalem is the capital of Palestine. So it's a big fight of who really gets Jerusalem. Is it the Palestinians or is it the Israelis? But the thing is, friends, you got to remember, the Palestinians are being played. And let me share with you where that is in prophecy, especially for my Palestinian friends. Many of you guys are Christians to begin with, and you know your Bible, and you know that the Jewish Tanakh is considered part of a Christian belief as it is. Daniel the prophet actually states here in chapter 11, verse 22 and 23, and we can even look at verse 24, and the arms of the flood shall be swept away from before him, and shall be broken, yea, also the prince of the covenant, and after the league made with him, he shall work deceitfully. Which prince is he speaking of? That's actually the prince from Daniel chapter 9, where it says, the prince that shall come shall be of the people who destroyed the temple and the sanctuary. Well, we know that Titus, the Roman general, was the one that led the toppling in 70 AD of the Jewish temple. Okay, and this happened back then, and of course Titus was a Roman general. Now, according to the biblical prophecies over in Obadiah, it's Esau's children that are actually found indicted by the prophet Obadiah as complicit to the collapse and fall of the temple in Jerusalem, as well as the destruction of the city itself. Now, scholars would tell you the Syrians were the ones that actually did all the dirty work there, but you got to remember, Rome had already conquered Syria some 50 years before 70 AD when they conquered Jerusalem as well. And of course, again, Esau is blamed in this in the book of Obadiah, saying you should not have stood aloof as one of them, talking about the Syrians, but that was Titus, the Roman general. He's the one that stood aloof as one of them. And you should have not looked upon the day of your brother's calamity when he, of course, goes into exile. That's just paraphrasing it, of course. Now, here it is, though. And after the league made with him, he shall work deceitfully, and he shall come up and become strong with a little nation. There's your Palestinians. Who? That prince that shall come. The Roman Pope right now in Italy. And by the way, I think it's interesting because Pope Francis is an Italian. His descendants are Romans. And of course, him being the fact that he is a Jesuit Pope, you can't be a Jesuit unless you are Jewish descent. So those of you that are looking for a Jewish Antichrist, well, that might be a possibility. Not saying that it is, but a possibility. All right, so here we have all this lining up biblically. Now let's look at some more of the news here. I want to share with you something very incredible that Prime Minister Netanyahu said here. And let's not get talking too quickly here. It's a historic day. But listen to what he says here. I want to share some of this with you right now. Whoop.
This is a historic day. Jerusalem has been the capital of the Jewish people for 3,000 years. It's been the capital of Israel for nearly 70 years. It was here that our temple stood, our kings ruled, our prophets preached. Jerusalem has been the focus of our hopes, our dreams, our prayers for 3 millennia. From every corner of the earth, our people yearn to return to Jerusalem, to touch its golden stones, to walk its hallowed streets. So it's rare to be able to speak.
We'll save the rest of it. He's going to thank President Trump for actually, of course, recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital. And again, I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. You know, I know that it does cause a lot of contentions, and I don't mean to cause contention with the Muslim community in that respect there. But again, I want the Muslim community to realize you're being played by Rome from the very beginning. In fact, before 1948, when Israel declared its own independence, during the Holocaust, the 6 years, actually more than 6 years, but the war that was going on in World War II, they stopped all Jews from being allowed to immigrate into the land to begin with under the British mandate, although it had been permitted to them already, but they totally stopped it and allowed the Jordanians instead to come and settle in the land, as well as the Egyptians. Now, I think that's kind of interesting that that happened, but you got to realize it was also because of biblical prophecy. This is exactly why that was happening. Prophecy was being fulfilled at the time because They were getting ready to, as the Bible says in Daniel 11:23, he comes up strong with a little people. So actually, Gentiles is the word that's being used there. And it is the Palestinians. So it is the Romans who come up strong with the Palestinians in order to try to prevent the Jewish people from returning home and also to set up what's about to happen. Now here's something though that really gets me that a lot of people miss. A couple of things I want to share with you here. Genesis chapter 25. Got to share this with you. I stated this years ago when God first revealed this to me, and it's actually this particular insight that God gave me has gone rampant. All kind of well-known ministers, whether it be on YouTube, even on television, have shared this revelation that God had given me. And this was about the prophecy that Rebekah, Isaac and Rebekah, the very two children in their womb. And this was from, again, this is from the book of Genesis chapter 25. Let's just real quick look at this. Verse 21, and Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren. And the Lord let himself be entreated of him. And Rebekah, his wife, conceived. And the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, wherefore do I live? Or why am I thus? Is actually, the King James converts it this way here. And she went to inquire of the Lord, and the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people. And the elder shall serve the younger, and when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came forth ruddy and all over like a hairy mantle, and they called his name Esau. And after that came forth his brother, and his hand had hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bore them. All right, now here's what's interesting. When God first revealed this to me, this was back when John Kerry actually announced a 9-month negotiation for the dividing of the land of Israel for a Palestinian state and for a Jewish state. And when this happened, that's when God revealed this to me. As soon as John Kerry said it, a few days later, the Lord revealed it in my heart. This is biblical prophecy. The 9 months, and many people may say, oh, there was never no 2 states at that time. That was actually the finalizing between Rome and Israel for a 2-state solution. Because see, Palestinian friends, it's not for you. They don't care if you have a state other than they're using you for the Vatican's own agenda. That's what the real side of this is all about. So when John Kerry was negotiating for those 9 months, you need to see what happened after that. Watch what Rome did. Watch all the things. Mekodeshet came out. This Mekodeshet meaning to espouse or to get engaged. See, they began to unite the monotheistic religions, and that's only Catholicism, Muslims, and of course the Jews. They throw the rest of you Christians under the bus. Forget the Baptists and Methodists and Presbyterians and Pentecostals, etc., etc., etc. You're all thrown under the bus because you're not counted in that group unless you come back to Rome, okay? So, but that's when I began to see the prophecies are being fulfilled. And then Rome, then you saw the Jewish Congress, they began to work with Rome like never before. Why? Because the 2 nations that were in the womb, Esau and Jacob, were 2 nations were going to be born. And when they would be born, they would be divided. It'd be 2 nations. And that's exactly what happened. And this is what's happening today. And remember, there's also a prophecy about Esau and Jacob. And God, or I think it was Jacob's father, told Esau that when you break that yoke from off of your neck, and that was done in modern days. Esau never broke the yoke when Jacob, back when in their lifetime. It was broken in modern days. And now Rome is beginning to rule. And now Israel comes. Shimon Peres, like Ahab, brought Jezebel back, the idolatry, back into Israel today. And then, of course, Prime Minister Netanyahu has nothing he can do. He has to just bow down and serve Esau now in order to be able to maintain his state and to be able to get the financial support that he needs to be a state. But you know what? You don't need any of it. You don't have to bow down to Rome. Let me say this to my own brothers and sisters living there in Israel today. You don't have to serve Rome. God sent you a deliverer. He sent you the Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach. He sent to you. And I'm going to show you something tonight, something God has shown me that's been burning inside of me for a couple of days. And I actually got the revelation even before this, but then God showed me a new part. And let me tell you something, my brothers and sisters in Israel. You should have recognized that Yeshua was Messiah years ago, because all through the Tanakh it is written in there. And let me say this to you. Moshe himself said, the Lord thy God will raise up a prophet like unto me from amongst your brethren. This was going to be the Mashiach, right? Well, let me say something to you. Everything about Moses' life was a type of the coming of the Mashiach. You don't know that? His own, as I said to you guys recently, the very fact that when he was born, his mother, she noticed that he was a good child. There was something about him. See, she saw that. It literally says in there, Taroe, she saw. See, Kitov, Oto Kitov, who? She saw that he was a good child. And she what? She hid him inside that ark, inside of a basket. And that basket was pitched with, we translate English slime, like a clay of the earth. Why? It was showing that the Mashiach would be coming through the womb of a woman. Because Moses was already born. But he said, the Lord thy God would raise up a prophet like unto me. So then God took that prophet and put him back into a basket to show that Mashiach would come in the womb of a woman. And placed him in amongst the reeds, right? Yes, exactly right. Placed him in amongst the reeds there, showing that he would be in your own ancestry. See, the reed itself represents the ancestry. We find that out in Micah chapter 7, when God talks about sending back Moses in this day here, that he would also restore back the old way. He would actually do it by the very staff of his lineage, and would do great wonders. All right? But look what happened with Moses, though. This is what got me today. Let's look at it. Let's go to it real quick. Exodus chapter 2. Let's back up just a little bit. All right? And the woman conceived and bore a son, and when she saw him, this is Moses' wife, Moses' mother, all right? And he was a goodly child. She hid him 3 months, and when she could no longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrush and daubed it with slime and with pitch. And she put the child therein and laid it in the flags, or the reeds. Actually, it's Besuf, by the river's brink. And his sister stood afar off to know what would be done to him. All right? Now, and hang on one second, friends. I got something. So anyway, maidens walked along the riverside, and she saw the ark among the flags and sent her handmaiden to fetch it. And she opened it and saw it, even the child, and behold, a boy wept. Now this is when Pharaoh's daughter, right, is coming along. She sees this child, sees that he's crying, and she has compassion upon him. All right? This is going to blow you away, friends. I'm telling you it will. This is one of the Hebrews' children. Okay, is what she says. Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that he may nurse the child for thee? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, go, and the maiden went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, take this child away, and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages. And the woman took the child and nursed it. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son, and she called his name Moses, or Moshe, and said, because I drew him out of the water. My gosh. That's the most beautiful thing I've heard in my entire life. Do you realize what is sitting there in that passage? Pharaoh's daughter, she sends Moses away to be weaned by his own mother, nurses him. He's a young boy when he comes back to her. And she calls his name in her tongue, in Arabic, Musa, because I drew him from the water. Do you not realize that that has so many implications? It is like a midwife drawing the child from the womb, the water. Where is the child? He's in the water of the womb. It shows that the Mashiach, the Messiah, would be drawn from the womb itself. And not only would he be drawn from the womb, but Egypt themselves would take that child and would care for that child and love that child when that child would be in danger. And of course, as a type and a shadow, that Moses was taken from the womb, from the water himself by Egypt, so was Yeshua himself. What happens? We find out in Matthew chapter 2. It says right here, and when they let me back up just to verse 12. And being warned of God in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed from there into their own country another way. Talking about the as we normally call it, the three wise men that came to Yeshua. Now, I don't know if we actually know the number, but that's what we normally typically say and everything. All right. Now, and by the way, those people are from Syria. I don't know if you knew that or not. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be there until I bring thee word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. What was Pharaoh, his own stepmother doing? She pulled him from the water. Musa, showing that the Messiah in the future would be drawn from the womb of a woman, as it says in Isaiah 9. Behold, let's just go and read it. We're not going to lose it now. We're going to go right there and we're going to read it now. All right, and I'm going to get my Jewish brethren that like to try to judge about this. We're going to clear it up right now today. We're going to look at this together now. All right, so we go to Isaiah 9 and I believe verse 6 here. All right, actually I got the scriptures mixed up. Isaiah 9, it wasn't Isaiah 9. I was trying to remember Isaiah chapter 7. We're going to go to verse 14, but let's back up just a little bit. And the Lord spoke again unto Ahaz, saying, Ask thee a sign of the Lord thy God, ask it either in depth or in the height above. But Ahaz said, I will not ask, neither will I try the Lord. And he said, Hear ye now, O house of David. It is a small thing for you to weary men, that you will weary my God also. Therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, the young woman shall conceive. Now I think in the King James you put a virgin, but it's actually the word is alma, which is a young maiden. It is a young woman is what it actually is. Now I would assume if a young woman is conceiving, she's probably a virgin to begin with. All right, but that's just debated by the Jewish scholars. But nonetheless, behold, the young woman shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. All right, think about it. And so with the story of Moses, he's drawn from the water. And God with us, Emmanuel, is going to be born through the birth of a woman. Plain as day. You can't get around it. You just can't get around it. Moses' very life declares it. And as Yeshua was also born in this fashion, as we saw reading in Matthew chapter 2 there, what happened? His father was warned and had to take the child, and where did they go? Into Egypt. Now, of course, Moses was already in Egypt, but like in the case of Herod, Herod was trying to kill all the children, so was Pharaoh trying to kill all the children then, and of course, a young child, Moses, hid in Pharaoh's house. Yeshua hides in Pharaoh's house until Herod passes away. I am just blown away by it. Blown away by it. All right, guys, let's go into some other news here real quick. And again, I want to thank John for sharing this news here with me today. Thank you, my brother, for doing that. So many people do send me a lot of news. I appreciate it. Lanny as well sends me a lot of things there. I don't always get to read everything because I do get hundreds of emails a day. So sometimes if you write me and you wonder why I haven't answered you, I have to dig through it, or if I write you back and then you wonder why I haven't responded. You know, if I don't see it for 3 days, there may be 400, well, not 300 or 400, about 1,000 emails already piled up on top of it. So it's really kind of intense. Anyway, Right here, South China Morning Post, Australia warned over siding against China in a security group there. Former Australian Foreign Minister Bob Carr says his nation should remain neutral and not be viewed as trying to contain China in alliance with U.S., India, and Japan. Seems like that they're definitely trying to isolate China more and more, just like they're doing with Russia. But there's a danger in doing that, and this is something the United States realizes, because if you isolate China, then it could cause a major meltdown economically. But the reason why I think they're trying to do this, though, is because China, Russia, and Iran are all talking about trading in the yuan, the Chinese currency. And so now that's kind of put China on the target list as well. So the nations are going to go against them, no doubt, as well as in this. U.S. is also disputing Putin's claim that Syria war is winding down. No doubt they dispute it, because the war is actually winding down. But I guess that's a kind of a subtle threat to let you know we're going to gear it back up again. The Syrian conflict is likely to drag on and could reignite into full-scale civil war as long as President Bashar al-Assad remains in power, despite efforts by Russia to paint the conflict as winding down, according to the White House officials. That's a flat-out threat. I mean, if anybody don't see this, that's why I say it isn't over, friends. And I really want to say something. I appreciate it. I made this comment about Obama possibly coming back into power. I know, as you guys wrote me in the comments, that technically he cannot come back to run a third term. But if you notice what I was saying in my analysis of what's happening right now, how they're trying to get Trump out of office and they want to impeach him. And I definitely do not want to see Trump impeached. Believe me, I do not want to see him impeached. But the point is that I see, and when I say I don't want to see him impeached, I'm not saying that Trump is some kind of savior for the world, but clearly he's probably a heck of a lot better than the other options that we were to have. But the issue is here. I don't believe that Obama would actually be considered running a third term. If they use this loophole and try to convict Trump, and as well as his administration, which would be Mike Pence right along with him, and then they would impeach him, they would actually back the clock up and say, well, they were actually guilty when President Obama was still president. And so therefore, it was a fraudulent election. Now, I'm giving you the hypothetical side that I'm looking at. I'm not saying that that's what I think it is. I'm just showing you what I think that they're up to. So in that regard, they would try to justify that Obama could go back into office again, because they would say from the beginning the election was a fraud. Now, you're right. As you guys, so many of you say, it would bring about a civil war in America. No doubt about it. I believe it would as well. And I think that's what they want. This is what you guys are not realizing. They want you to try to kill each other. I know I sat there with Obama's Secret Service agent one time, and he told me they're trying to get the United States to get into an upheaval and kill one another. They want to do it so they can disarm you. That's what they want to do it for. But again, I think that this may be a scenario that's going to play out. And as some of you mentioned as well, Nathan's prophecy there, that he would be the Gog that would lead the Gog of Magog war. Well, I don't know if he's Gog or not, but one thing is for sure, I do believe that if he comes back into power, he definitely would join in with the nations against Israel and no doubt come against them. So there's still a possibility, and again, not prophesying that. All I can say is it looks very odd and peculiar, especially with what Obama is doing on the world stage as well. Also, U.S. military to stay in Syria as long as we need to, says the Pentagon. And they definitely are digging in their heels, building bigger and bigger bases, as we reported from Already Happened. Our good friend Lorenzo over there on Already Happened's website brought that out, that huge military base that is there. So very troubling indeed. And of course, this always seems to be trouble in the Middle East. But somewhere along the way, I believe the Lord will return. And of course, guys, let me say something to you, my Jewish friends, as well. So many more things I could tell you about that we overlooked when it comes to Yeshua being the Messiah. So many things. I'll have to go into more detail later. Check out our channel, Danun Institute for Biblical Teachings there. I was actually going to do just a teaching on this and put that over there, but it's so much happening in the news, I just had to share it here with everybody. We might run this video over there as well. There's a lot of people there that don't come to Israeli News Live. But we love you guys. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you for those of you that are supporting this work we do. We can't do it without you. So we do want to thank you. And if you'd like to be a part of this work, visit our website, IsraeliNewsLive.org. Also, and I've not stated this before, we have a mailing address in the United States now. I don't have it memorized other than I know it's at Champions Gate. I think maybe I did mention it. Champions Gate, Florida, and I think it's Box 42, but I forget the actual address there. So if you want to contribute by mailing to Florida, which is Champions Gate is actually in Orlando, you can now do that rather than sending to Czech Republic. If you send to Czech Republic, it's still okay because we are here as well. But we do have to return back for my wife's intensive treatment she's got to go through 6 months of. So we thank you and God bless you. Shalom.